Hey, and a warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb Podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter. And today we are going to be discussing, I have a lovely question today, but today we're going to be discussing something that we call in my world agent illness or agent disease or agent pain in the body. And this is going to be a really, really juicy episode. And I'm going to give fair warning because these teachings that I'm about to share with you from Skylar are unconventional and that they may trigger some of you. So I'm not here to upset you. I am not here to rain on your parade or whatever is going on in your life. I am a person who has lived through chronic illness. I have completely and utterly healed my body through these teachings. So it is not my intention to create a triggering situation for anyone else. I know the struggle is real and I know that it's very difficult. So let's get into it. Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb Podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the light web, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Okay, welcome to today's episode. So we're going to kick off today's episode with a premise, a central question, but I'm actually going to kind of broaden the question that we've had from our lovely follower here. So I'm going to kind of broaden it as well to like other people who have other elements in their body. So let's get into this question. So the question comes from Maria, and she says, hello, Joanna and Skylar. On and off for 25 years now, I have had pelvis and lower back pain. I have tried everything, but it keeps coming back. Could you please help me to figure out what to do to heal? Okay. So the body literally speaks to us, and it speaks to us through a series of different ways. So what Skylar teaches is that the moment that we move out of alignment with source energy, we start to receive agents from the universe. So the first agent on the scene is usually the first agent is agent, I don't feel good. Right? So something inside of you, and we call this agent the emotional branch. So the very first agent that comes is, well, I don't feel good. There's something not feeling right. I don't feel right. I don't feel good. That could be followed by agent anxiety or agent depression, depending on where your thoughts are. So anxiety means that the thoughts are often future-based. Depression means that the thoughts can be past-based in the past. And then if we become very adept at ignoring our emotional agents, as in aka ignoring our emotions, the next branch of agents are a little bit more difficult to ignore. And they are what we call the outer branch of agents. So the outer branch of agents are those people that can push every single button that you own with alarming accuracy. So they push all your buttons and you feel very triggered. And if we become very adept at ignoring the emotional branch and then the outer branch of agents, finally the universe, in order to help you back into alignment, the universe will send you agent illness, or it will appear as disease or pain in the body or chronic pain in the body. And at that point in time, that agent is what I call the hardcore agents. And so if you've been following me for a while, you know my story of how I hit a massive burnout. Agent illness showed up en masse. And it was an incredibly challenging time in my life. And then the recovery from multiple organ failure was years in the making, but also as well, I was left with a number of chronic illnesses, which I'm actually free from those now. I have moved my body so much back into alignment. What I want you to understand when you're listening to this is that there is no shame, right? There is no shame in being out of alignment, okay? We came here actually to experience the ability to have the ability to be in alignment and out of alignment. So there is absolutely no shame in, if you've had illness manifest in your body, or if you've had this pain manifest in your body, or you've been playing tag with this pain for the last 25 years, or whatever has been going on with you. I want you to understand, because a lot of us, we move into judgment of ourselves. We think, oh my God, well, I've created this myself on some level. Yes, on a subconscious level, it can be absolutely true that we have manifested and created, and we can take ownership of that. But the thing is, did we purposely do it to ourselves? Of course not. Absolutely not. There is no victim shaming here or victim blaming here. So how do we work and operate when we have identified that we have agent illness in our life and agent illness has shown up? The first thing that we do often as human beings is we enter into something that Skylar calls the blame game. We like to blame the illness, or we like to blame the pain, right? So, oh my God, this stupid back pain's here again, or this horrible pelvic pain is here again. And we like to blame that. And what I want you to do is to kind of like change the perspective. This back pain, this pelvic pain, is an agent from the universe, and that it's there with one job and one job only, which is to help you move in to a deeper level of source alignment. And what the agent is doing is helping to raise your awareness. So the first step in removing agent illness from your life, if you have chronic illness and you're listening to this, then look at when you get your flare-ups. When is it the worst? What are you doing in your life at the time? Are you maybe overcommitting yourself, overextending yourself? And the agent shows up and it's like, hey, I got you, boo. Don't you worry. I'm going to put you flat on your butt so you can't do the thing that you just overcommitted yourself to. And this conversation with oneself requires radical self-honesty. And it's tricky. It's not easy, because sometimes what we have to do is actually admit things that we're almost too afraid to admit, because we know that once we admit them and once we speak them out loud, there's going to be a paradigm shift. And we know that things can't ever go back to the way that they were before. And that's frightening and that's scary for anyone. So when I was visited by, first of all, after my huge agent burnout, I was then visited by agent chronic fatigue. I had agent gallstones. I had agent wonky liver, where I ended up having a liver operation where I needed to remove a third of my liver. And I had a number of other agents. I had an agent chronic unexplained pain syndrome, who comes up with these names. I have no idea. And I also, within my body at one point, had a agent autoimmune disease with no name, because nobody knew what it was, but it was definitely an autoimmune condition, because I literally spent about 6 months where I felt completely and utterly allergic to the world. I would break out in hives. I would get really seriously ill. I would have mild anaphylactic symptoms, like my throat closing and feeling like it was closing, and it was not pleasant at all. But every single one of those agents was serving me. And once I became aware that that's what they were agents, and instead of blaming them and blaming them for the reason why my life was a bit of a shambles at the time, what I did was I began looking at my own behavior in the run-up to maybe an agent really appearing or pushing. So agent gallstones, for instance, that's a really good one. So agent gallstones taught me how to begin to say no, because I was a chronic people pleaser, and I chronically overcommitted myself. I said yes to things that I didn't really want to say yes to. And that's because I was so busy trying to be a good person to other people, I forgot to be a good person to myself. And that's the moment I moved out of alignment with my own self. So there I was, overcommitted and feeling like, oh my God, I've got to go and do this thing. And I've said yes to it now. I can't pull out and things like that. And then what would happen is, for some reason, my gallbladder would just decide, time out, girlfriend. And I would get so ill. I would get fever. I would get chills. I would get a flare up. Sometimes the flare ups were so bad it landed me in hospital. And then, of course, guess what? I had a valid reason and a valid excuse to do the thing that I didn't have the kind of lady balls to do, which was to cancel, because I didn't actually want to do the thing that I'd committed to. Instead, Agent Gallstone stepped in and was like, reporting for duty, let me help you here. And it gave me a valid excuse. The downside of Agent Gallstones was I was usually writhing in agony and in the hospital sometimes. I was hospitalized sometimes. So when I realized that if I stopped overcommitting myself, my body began healing. And I began to observe this pattern of if I overcommitted myself, sometimes it would create a flare up. And then if I stopped overcommitting myself, I seemed to be okay. And eventually what I did was I began to live my life really, really true to my own self, true to myself. Was it easy? No, it wasn't, because we are conditioned from a very, very young age to help others, to be good humans, to be good people and do all of these things and overcommit ourselves and fill our plates until they're so full that we can't possibly even deal with half of it that's on there. But it's unpacking all of that conditioning. It's unpacking all of that. Here's the other thing, though, that the body leaves clues. The body leaves clues. So Agent Gallbladder holds the bitter bile of the liver, which basically means it holds your bitterness. Was I bitter that I said yes to stuff that I didn't want to be part of? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I was. So in Maria's case here, she is suffering from lower back pain and pelvic pain. Okay. So the body leaves these incredible clues. So your spine and your back is your support system. And your lower back often relates to areas of finance and money. And so it relates to that. So these are maybe good places to look at. What are my boundaries like? What are my thoughts about money like around this? What do I feel supported in life when it comes to the financial side of life? Do I feel financially supported? And these can bring in. The other thing that's very, very interesting with the pelvis is that the pelvis also, or the hips in particular, they hold and store our trauma and our deepest traumatic experiences. So sometimes when we have flare up in that area, it can literally mean that we're ready to begin to actually release trauma. So in this case, for me, I used a number of different therapies to help me, but what I ultimately used was Skylar's teachings and using their teachings in conjunction with another therapy. So for instance, I went to acupressure and acupuncture to begin to relieve the symptoms of my liver and my gallbladder, and to begin that healing process there. But I also modified my behavior and began realizing that my behavior was having a direct impact on how often Agent Gallstones was visiting. So one of the things here is that perhaps when this pelvic pain is coming up, that it's time for beginning to, either trauma has been triggered again, so a trauma that the body is holding and storing and hasn't been fully processed and dealt with is being very much triggered. It could be even a money trauma of, maybe feeling like that worry, that fear of I don't have enough being triggered, and then it creates a physiological response. And so becoming aware of your behavior around when you have these flare-ups not getting into it and feeling like, oh God, now my wonky hips, or, my bad back, and whatever blame that we get into, not getting into that blame. Instead, really, really holding the energy for, how can I see this as an agent, and how can I understand that this agent is actually loving me and helping me and showing me and highlighting where my own energy is out of alignment. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you loved these teachings, you guys will love the teachings in my LightWeb course. We go deep into agents of the universe there, and we teach you how to really surf the energy of your life and how to heal at deep inner levels in body, mind, and spirit.